Guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we'll look into a scenario in which Germany won World War II. In the beginning, it goes pretty similar, but changes at a point. A few events leading up to the war change, but some stay the same. Like the lead up to the war, but some of Italy's decisions, Germany's decisions, and Japan's decisions, we will alter. Well, that will lead to a scenario in which bad guys win. And I need to fix some of the borders because when I was making this map, of course, forgot to remove a few borders. Tanny-Tufa doesn't even look right. At least Japan's area looks right. Just looking quickly to see if I need to erase anything. And well, let's start. Well, the first thing that happened is Italy runs over Ethiopia and gains lands. They gain all of Ethiopia, although Ethiopia is probably still revolting against them. Germany is after its first part, but now it's 1938 Anschluss, and I would say the partition of Czechoslovakia can go the exact same in this scenario because it's not going to make a big difference to the outcome of the war. And well, that's Hungary. And Czechia is annexed. Well, first it's a Sudetenland, and then it's, maybe like some parts. With the first part of this war probably breaking out now, with Germany going after Danzig, or whatever we call it, with their allies. And yeah, they quickly occupy Danzig, and well, let's say. And this is, they invade Poland the exact same way. This is 1939. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact has been signed, guys. And, well, it looks like Germany is now invading. With Britain and France doing the exact same thing, pretending to care, but really do nothing. And, well, this is what it looks like. No, not that far. Wait, how far was it? Obviously not that far. Maybe like this far. They are... And Britain and France has already declared Socialist Republic entering the war on the green team. Yeah. Also, keep in mind, there's one problem with the map. I did not split Sac Holland. So that's a bit of an issue. But it's not big enough to worry about, I don't think. With the war in Poland about to end. With the first part of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. After the fall of France, I'll do the first part of, deleting land and fixing it. But at this point, this is all that there. And, well, the Baltics. I don't know, were they before the Winter War? But they were at some point. With Operation, was it Weserberg? I can't even say it, so don't get mad. And Greenland is also now in the war, along with Svalbard. And so is Iceland. I think Iceland was a part of Denmark still at this point. With this operation going just about as well as in our timeline. But let's say they completely take it over at this point. I don't even know what Japan's even doing, but we'll look at it soon. With Operation Weserberg being an absolute success. Of course, they didn't manage to take Iceland or Greenland, but they took a lot of land. But now, oh no, Benelux is brought in. On the side of Germany, just kidding, that's never going to happen. What would they do after? I'd say probably make the world their friend. But if to Spain it looked like they were going to win, they'd probably join. And well, oh, Malaysia was already in the war, not Indonesia. I'm losing this, really. I don't even know what's going on. But they did join eventually. And well, this goes the exact same as it did in our timeline. Maybe even better. With less German forces getting injured. And a quicker French surrender. I would say would be very good for Germany. With Benelux probably falling even faster, that would be very beneficial. With them just cakewalking it and moving in. What they call the operation, I guess. be whatever. With France about to fall, Italy can tell. Well, Italy knows. Italy joins the war, everyone! With the Italian entry to the war. France is about to capitulate, guys. But how bad will it be? Oh, I guess technically it'll be... With France surrendering over, that means all of their territory. That means all of France's territory. But I'm not going to call her summon because they're going to fall quick. Let's just say this manages to just stay where it is. This stays where it is, probably. Madagascar gets taken over quick. But the Levant also goes over. Right? Next campaign is the North Africa front. I guess we'll go through and see it go better. Now let's see the peace treaty that came from this. Not really peace treaty, but what they did to the borders since they're in charge. And now for the establishment of a free France. It will have less success. And with, the North Africa front. During this, Italy doesn't decide when they start, failing in the front to move forces and invade Greece, and they ask for Germany, and Germany sends extra forces to keep the supremacy. And while they end up never getting pushed back, stalemates out, so this is where the extra forces are sent. Them unable to take back, that. With Iraq joining the war earlier. Yes, earlier, I believe. This is probably 1940s, maybe. And let's look at what's happening here. The Baltics are annexed, fearing Russian aggression, fearing Germany's takeover. And the Winter War goes just as bad as it did in our timeline. With Japan not attacking Indochina as soon, chances are, because, they want to do better. And Barbarossa would happen later. And, Finland humiliates the Soviets, with them kicking them out of most of the territory except the southern part. But they still need peace at this point, and let's see what Japan is doing. Well, Japan is up to no good. What else do you expect? Let's say China managed to unite against Japanese aggression. Not as well, in only a few of the places, including the Republic of China, Communist China, in these areas. With Japan's enemies becoming a bunch less warlords they need to fight, which allows them to have more success. And they decide to focus on invading from the north instead of them taking Nankin and moving down the coast and taking a bunch more cities. They decide to focus on this one frontier instead of open more. And while the success in North Africa happens, and while Kuwait is taken over by Iraq, and now they decide to go after Greece and Yugoslavia. See, some of the events won't happen in the exact same order because that wouldn't functionally work towards their victory. And we're going to get through multiple maybe I'll focus on not doing treaties till the end. But yeah, that's a success. With them deciding to focus on North Africa, and they decide to push Free France back. And at this point, Egypt is no longer really controlled, with Ethiopia's colony of Italy being able to make advances. Push them back slightly. But they push them back into Sudan, and now there's a bit of a freeze in the front lines. But they're focusing on until Japan is ready, because they want to be able to open a two-front war. And they honestly have success somehow. China doesn't fight as well against Japan. Japan decides now is the time to invade from the south. And as they're securing the resources they need, this is where they decide to go after Indochina, which leads to America doing exactly what they did in our timeline. Thailand joins at this point. Ooh, that's even worse. British Malaya has trouble because, well, Thailand pushes them out of this area. And, well, they move into Burma or Myanmar. I think it was Burma at that time. With China capitulating, and, well, Japan goes even further into invading some of the nations of China. I think Tibet would have probably been in the war, but they managed to take out these two areas of warlords, and then they go in after these two. And, well, this is what the side of the Soviets says. With them thinking of getting Iran involved when they do start the next push. With Germany landing in Iceland and having success. And also, let's act like there is no Pearl Harbor, because Pearl Harbor will make a bit different. Too different, let's say. With Africa struggling to get enough resources, as Germany has been trying to stop their supplies to this region. And Japan goes after Indonesia, seizing the territory. They don't seize any part of Australia, just to let you know. They didn't yet. But they will. At some point, they will. And, well, Burma collapses. And, well, they land here. And then a problem occurs, which leads us to be a bit unrealistic. The speed at which this advance is probably taking years. So this is probably like maybe even 4 years into the war. With a bunch of the colonies, let's say this makes sense, right? That South Africa would leave. And, well, this is where Spain sees, oh, we can get a bit of land out of this. And they see that's realistic chance of German victory, as Germany's forces in Africa are walking over Africa like it's nothing. And Vichy France has taken back a lot of its land. And, well, the forces left in Africa all surrender. This makes Britain really angry. But Germany and Japan, let's say, are working together. With Canadian resources unable to get to the British Isles, as well, German dominance in the sea. Let's say they have dominance over the sea, Greenland collapses, and they're landing where they put the weather station, which was like here, actually becomes they land some forces in. But don't worry, this is not how early British Newfoundland falls. No, Canada takes it back. And, well, another war breaks out between Finland and the Soviets. They don't realize that this is all supplied with Germany. And, well, Germany is supplying them, so they actually have a success. Which pushes them out and back to the territories they once had. With this area falling, turns out this was a plan by the Germans to launch an offensive. And, well, Operation Barbarossa goes ahead in this timeline. Before the invasion of the Brits. You may think that's a bit of a bad idea and that there's no way they could win this. You're probably right. But one thing. Remember Japan? Well, Japan actually attacks them too. Japan in our timeline couldn't go to war with them because they were too busy in China. But in this timeline, what are they busy doing, you may be wondering? Nothing. And what do they do when they have nothing to do? Well, they can invade the Soviets. And they have success taking this big of a piece out of them. And this is where, well, the Soviets become parts of the Allies. But anti-war testament in some areas are leading to problems. With promises of lands given to Turkey and Iran. Oh, they just took over Cyprus, I just realized. Taking away British naval supremacy in areas. Spain is given the task of defending the sea because they don't want an invasion. With Iran making an invasion, although one problem. Some of the occupied lands in the east, well, Japan's pushed back in this. They're pushed out of Tibet. They're pushed back to where they were at the furthest defending. And while in this timeline they went after the Caucasus much faster because there's Turkey and Iran, they went after it earlier. But this time the siege of Leningrad is a success. Finland officially joins the Axis. Sweden doesn't. They stay neutral, unfortunately. With the Soviet Union running low on resources. With a push towards Moscow, the Moscow push is a success. With Britain struggling to supply British India. British India declares its independence, although it's being attacked. And Japan occupied much more land than they did in our timeline. And Tibet is quickly taken back. And, well, Mongolia is quickly capitulated. Well, maybe they'll try the Trans-Siberian Railway, like that. With the Germans pushing towards the Urals, that's probably where they'll be stopped. With them getting stopped along the Urals by the Soviets, but this is really far back. So now, what is the Soviets going to do? Well, they can't do anything at this point. And well, a Japanese attack of America is more likely at this point. With Stalin being found dead, most likely at this point, well, the entire Soviet Union exits from the war. With all that's left is Britain and a few colonies, but this is where it gets interesting. An attack, much like in our timeline, occurs on Pearl Harbor. Or maybe it's just the Philippines are attacked. But the Philippines are taken over, Papua New Guinea, and an invasion of Australia happens. And well, Australia quickly loses too much land. Well, considering they lost to emus, they're probably not going to beat the Japanese army. But anyways. And then New Zealand capitulates. But I don't think it's physically possible they can get to North America, so total victory is very unlikely. But with a landing in Scotland taking place, and a quick movement down the coast of it, leads to the capitulation. Now just make this easier for the treaty purposes. And well, representatives from Washington, Britain, and every country that is involved meets in Berlin to discuss the future. And this is a big treaty about colonies and stuff and transfers of land and stuff. So let's see what happens. Victory would look like with the Eastern world being dominated by Germany and Japan. The Western world is dominated by America basically at this point, and their goal is to free the world. They share with South Africa, New Zealand, Canada. They're all ready to free the world. But can they do it? Now I'm going to make this into a series, guys. So please watch the next part. And that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys!